Okay, record. So verse 64 on page 344 of Hatha Yoga Pradipika. There is no doubt that by practicing Mula Bandha, Prana and Apana, and Nada and Bindu are united, and total perfection attained. The union of Prana and Apana has been discussed previously, but what are Bindu and Nada? Bindu is an important aspect of Tantra and Yoga. Bindu means point or nucleus and refers to the nucleus in each individual, which contains the potential consciousness and creative force. What is the potential within the nucleus? It can be compared to the DNA molecule, which contains the potential of creating an entire universe in the form of a new being. Bindu has a different form of manifestation in each of the three realms: physical, subtle, and casual, and causal. In Hatha Yoga, Bindu often refers to sperm or ova in the physical body, but these are understood to be the grossest manifestations of the subtle Bindu, which drips as nectar from Bindu Visarga, the point at the back portion of the head. From this point, the Bindu moves down through the chakras until it materially manifests as the cellular components within the reproduction secretions. According to Tantra, Bindu can be experienced and controlled from these 2 points. An example, Bindu Visarga and the reproductive organs. In its aspect as semen, it is called white or Shukla Bindu. In its aspect as ova, it is known as red or Rakdu Bindu. The union of the two is Mishara Bindu, and that union produces nada or sound vibration. The Chudamani Upanishad states that Bindu is of 2 types, white and red. The white is Shukla and the red is Maharaja. The white Bindu represents the male aspect, Shiva, Purusha or consciousness and semen. The red Bindu represents the female aspect, Shakti, Prakriti or energy and menses. The red Bindu is established in the sun and the white Bindu in the moon. Their union is difficult indeed. The terms white and red should not only be taken literally, they are also symbolic. White Bindu resides in the head, red Bindu in Muladhara. He who realizes the essential oneness of the 2 Bindus when red Bindu merges with white Bindu alone knows yoga, union. Chudamani Upanishad, verse 64. In terms of the male and female bodies, the red Bindu in Muladhara of a man is Shukla Bindu, and the red Bindu in the Muladhara of a woman is Rakta. In the practice of Vajroli Mudra during Matuna, Vajroli Mudra is, we looked this up yesterday, is it's a mudra that is, I might not explain this right, but it was like controlling the release of the semen. And on Wikipedia, it says it's not something that's practiced in modern times, but you can look that up more. During Matuna, I don't know what that word is. Let me see.
Pam, wasn't Vajroli Mudra the reabsorption of semen?
Yeah, it was like.
It was this very, talk about patriarchal stuff. It was this very patriarchal image of a man reabsorbing semen that had been discharged into some woman's vagina, and she was
right.
As a vessel. So it was pretty off-putting. That's why I remember it.
Yeah. And Matuna on Wikipedia is the Sanskrit term referred to sexual intercourse itself within tantric sex.
Okay.
Which at the beginning of the book, I think they talk about Hatha Yoga coming from Tantra. I don't know. Let me not put words where I don't know where they go. The aim is to unite the 2 Bindus so that the nada, subtle sound vibration, creative returns to its source in the Maha Bindu seated within the brain. It is not the physical Bindu, an example, sperm or ova, which is to be taken up into the brain. This is often misinterpreted. It is a subtle essence from the union of these 2 poles of energy. It is the energy of the reproductive impulse, which has to be channeled through the central nervous system through Sushumna. Two important bandhas are to be perfected, Mula and Jalahara. When Mula Bandha is performed in conjunction with Jalahara, which is the throat lock, the Sushumna passage between Muladhara and Vishuddhi is isolated. Muladhara is the root chakra and Vishuddhi is the throat chakra. Jalahara Bandha prevents prana vayu from passing upwards beyond Vishuddhi. Mula Bandha prevents apana from escaping downwards below Muladhara. These two vayus are forced together and their union in Manipura is gradually accomplished. Manipura is the sacral chakra. This awakening of Manipura chakra is a definite milestone in the spiritual life of a yogic aspirant. With this, Kundalini is considered to have risen from Muladhara and become established in Manipura, and this affects the source in the brain, which the nectar flows from Bindu Visarga. In physiological terms, this flow of nectar is associated with the release of hormones from the pituitary gland into the bloodstream. The principle of feedback in an inhibition or hormones upon their source is well known to scientists. It means that a hormonal end product, such as testosterone in the man or estrogen progesterone in the female, is produced by the testes or ovaries due to the stimulus of gonadotrophins from the pituitary, as well as their primary effects upon the reproductive system. These reproductive hormones are also found to feedback upon the pituitary to inhibit further release of the same pituitary hormones which have stimulated their production. In this way, hormonal effects are exerted in the body in a fits and starts manner, with a continuing state of imbalance between production and consumption of hormones. This fluctuating system of self-regulation is considered as normal by medical science today, but because of its inherent imbalance, aging and degeneration results in the body. However, as union of prana and apana in the Manipura is induced, the behavior of the lower chakras and the instinctive functions they govern undergo modification. Production of the reproductive hormones diminishes to a steady baseline level so that the inhibition upon the pituitary secretion is released. The pituitary then begins to secrete its stimulating hormones without fits and starts. This is the physiological explanation of the flow of nectar from Bindu Visarga becoming continuous and undisrupted. As a result, the stream of consciousness becomes one-pointed and continuous. This is the emergence of continuous nada in the brain. The gross bindu in the reproductive secretions has been withdrawn and transmuted into nada, the blissful eternal seed sound emanating within the brain. Bindu has become nada, control of the sexual impulses has been attained, consciousness has been liberated into new realms of experience, and simultaneously the dependent glands and organs of the body are preserved. The Sarada Talaka states, Maha Bindu, the great Bindu, an example Brahman, divides itself into three. One division is predominated by Shiva, consciousness, the other by Shakti, energy. The merging of the two is nada, transcendental sound vibration. The original Maha Bindu in the cosmic realm is the primal source of pure consciousness, with energy in the passive state. On the differentiation of the supreme Bindu, nada or unmanifest sounds burst forth. The Bindu Visarga is the highest manifestation of the consciousness in the individual. It is the source of creation. By performing Mula Bandha and thereby controlling the release of the sex hormones and the sexual impulses, a constant flow of nectar is induced from Bindu Visarga. This is experienced as transcendental sound. By controlling Bindu Visarga, you are controlling creation within the microcosmos. Does anyone need me to pause there before I move on? Okay, verse 65. With constant practice of Mula Bandha, prana and apana urine and stool are decreased, and even an old person becomes young. All the practices which unite the two opposite forces, prana and apana, generate and release immense heat in the body. This increases the metabolic rate for a short period, and as a result, elimination and degeneration are decreased. Absorption and assimilation improve, and the nervous system, blood circulation, and brain functions are greatly stimulated. The mind becomes alert, sensual desires and the need for sleep decrease, and even during the dream state, there is a greater awareness. When Mula Bandha is practiced regularly, the physiological need for food decreases, and the same symptoms which appear due to perfection of pranayama and Uddiyana Bandha manifest. Sometimes when I'm reading, it doesn't stick, so I have to like reread the sentence. Yeah. When it's like, oh, that really makes sense. Okay. Verse 66 and 67. Apana moves up in the region of fire, Manipura chakra, the navel center. Then the flames of the fire grow, being fanned out by Apana Vayu. Then, when Apana and the fire meet with prana, which is itself hot, the heat in the body is intensified. The ultimate effect of Mula Bandha and Jalahara is the same as Uddiyana and Jalahara. Actually, the three bandhas should be performed together in Maha Bandha for the best results, even though they can be practiced separately and should be until each is individually perfected. At the beginning of this chapter, she starts with talking about Maha Bandha, I can't think of the other word, Maha Bandha, Maha Mudra. So she started there. Now she's breaking up, I guess, the individual locks. When the perineal body is constantly contracted, the prana shakti, which normally escapes through the passage, is redirected to the navel center, which is the seat of the fire element, or Agni Tattva. When the chakra is activated, heat will be produced, but Manipura becomes excessively hot because of the fire element. This center is responsible for maintaining the body temperature and regulating the digestive fire. The nervous impulses set from the coccygeal plexus are said to fan the fire. Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha are techniques which redistribute and rechannel pranic heat and nervous impulses from the lower to the higher centers, or from the grosser to the subtler centers. Verse 68 and 69. Through this, the sleeping kundalini is aroused by the extreme heat, and it straightens itself just as a serpent beaten with a stick straightens and hisses. Just as a snake enters its hole, so kundalini goes into Brahma Nadi. Therefore, the yogi must always perform Mula Bandha. When kundalini is awakened, the whole central nervous system becomes active and charged with energy. Energy passes from the firing of one neuron to the next, and the chains of the nerve fibers straighten with the force of the energy. Thus, it is said, kundalini straightens like a snake, which is suddenly beaten with a stick. The normal amount of energy which passes through the central nervous system is of a low frequency compared to that of kundalini. Most of our energy flows outwards through the sense organs. Through the practice of Mula Bandha, that same energy can be redirected upward to the higher brain centers, which normally do not receive much of a charge. In the average person, the energy which flows through the central nervous system is such of a low voltage that it is only sufficient to power the instinctive consciousness of the body and body functions. To manifest the so-called superhuman qualities, the entire pranic capacity has to be increased, and the central nervous system and brain have to be charged with the high voltage energy of Kundalini Shakti. In order to purify and strengthen the chakras, Mula Bandha, Jalahara Bandha, and Uddiyana Bandha and Kumbhaka are practiced. So this is root lock, throat lock, belly lock, and Kumbhaka is retention of the breath. Then when Kundalini rises, it will pass through Brahmanadi, the innermost layer of Sushumna. I will pause there today. We will start throat lock on Monday, so we can have a chat and move into pranayama and meditation.
I have to say that very last paragraph that you read, it was just a very nice little tiny summary of what she's been saying for about the past 25 pages or so. It was really good, and it makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, a lot of this is still Greek to me, but it's coming together. So
I agree. I like that little wrap up.
yeah. And I like Kundalini straightens like a snake, which is suddenly beaten with a stick. So if you read neuronal activity is never just this one triggers this one, which triggers the following one. It is like this burst of activity because individual neurons have thousands of connections with other neurons. So you could just picture the snake straightening up, because of this burst of energy and directed energy that's essentially making the right or preferred connections and straightening out that snake so that Sushumna is empowered.
Well,
I forgot. Really a metaphor.
Yeah. I forgot about this on Sue, but on Wednesday, which was the day after my birthday,
yeah,
I had after we ended this, Kramer was having a very bad day. He was yelping. He was obviously in pain. He was suffering like all day long, and my heart was just like broken. I didn't know what to do. I'm trying to like do work. I wound up, because I was like so stressed and didn't realize it, I wound up making a really big work mistake. I told management what I did. I've never made a mistake like this before. I told everyone what I did. I was waiting to hear back from the analyst to see how bad my mistake was going to be. It could have been extremely bad, or it could have been nothing. So like that lag time, now like once I made that work mistake, it was just like water work. Like I was hysterical. But it was just like, it wasn't just Kramer and that. It was just like the past few weeks, like I hadn't released anything, any like emotion. I don't know why I was holding on to it. But anyway, I felt really good. And so fine, Eric came home. Kramer went and sat with Eric. He finally passed out for an hour. But I'm like, I have to go to yoga tonight. Like I was already planning to go to Amanda's class in the studio. I haven't taken 7:30 class in the studio, but I needed to eat dinner. So I wolfed down 2 pieces of pizza and I get to the studio. And this is how I used to practice, because I would get off the train. I'd have to eat. I couldn't eat after class. It was too late for me. Like I had to eat. So I was constantly going to yoga with a full stomach. And so I haven't been practicing like that because I've been taking either morning classes or like the 4:30 class, and it's so different. It's so much nicer to practice without food in your stomach. So I go to yoga and I'm practicing, but I was playing with the locks while I was practicing, and like I was so full. I was so uncomfortable. But when we were talking about Uddiyana Bandha, and it's this idea, like these locks are more of an advanced practice for the advanced practitioner. But we were questioning as to like, when can you just play with them on your own? And I feel it's okay and safe that if you have a practice and you're familiar and you're learning about the locks, that it's okay to safely practice them at home to sort of figure out where they are. And so I was doing that while I was moving, and I was then at the end of class, we're like retaining our breath. And I was like, I can see why now it's an advanced practice, because she spoke about locking your root, locking your belly, locking your throat, holding the breath in. Now all the air and energy is contained here.
Mm-hmm.
And if my belly is so full and on fire with pizza, no less, not even like healthy foods, all that like energy. And so I felt very good after class, because I was aware of what I was doing to myself. And it was interesting to play with that. But yeah, I can see why you're supposed to practice the locks under a guru or she says an experienced teacher, because I could have done myself a lot of harm with doing that. Like, let me just do it because the teacher said to do it. Not that Amanda was saying to do it, because I was doing it on my own. I was just playing with it on my own.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, today I have, I'm going to a yoga thing where the focus is Uddiyana Bandha. I can hardly wait because I'm less familiar with that. I know how to do it, but I can hardly wait to do it with somebody who knows what they're doing.
this is with your private teacher?
Yeah.
Okay.
I texted her and I said, we got an hour coming up. Can we do Uddiyana Bandha? And she said, oh, good. And she knew the pages it was on in here.
Oh, wow.
So I'm told that I'm going to be guided. And I won't kill myself. I can't imagine you doing those 3 locks with pizza stomach. Honest to God, that's something.
I wasn't really, but even like I couldn't even get Uddiyana. Like, I was just so full and uncomfortable. Like, the whole idea of practicing on an empty stomach is so important. And she reiterates that throughout the practice of like not doing breath retention or having an empty stomach for some of these things. And
She does.
majority of them, like she says, to have an empty stomach for. What, Watsu?
Maybe the way, when you were doing it on a fuller stomach, maybe the way that it worked and you walk out feeling good is, remember she talks earlier in the book about how, or maybe this was in the sutras, I'm mixing them up, where if you practice something, but you're living a very unbalanced life, etc., that a lot of your practice just goes to try to get back into a little bit better balance. It doesn't really, advance you because you're trying so hard to maintain some stability,
Oh yeah,
body.
no, I was so far on one side of my spectrum that it kind of, yeah, you're right. It brought me like back to my balance.
Yeah.
It wasn't even hard for me to leave Kramer because I knew he was comfortable with Eric, and he wound up giving Eric a little bit of problems when I got home. But I could reset myself on the mat. When I came home, I sat down and I hand fed him because he was hungry and he couldn't eat, and it was really sad. But if I scooped the wet food into my hand, which was disgusting, but I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And into little chunks, he ate it out of my hands. And my hand got messy, but I washed my hand after. It wasn't a big deal. And he ate and he came in his room and he passed out, and he's been fine since. But I needed that reset time because I'm like, my anxiety and stress was too much in here. But yeah, it was like you just gotta go and try to do it, even if your stomach's full sometimes.
Yep.
But it was funny. I was thinking of you. But I was a little cautious of it too because I could feel like a headache coming on but I was like, I'm not gonna push myself physically. I'm just gonna come here and like I was also practicing with my mask on, so that added like another layer to it. But I just was like, I'm just so grateful to be here. But yeah. We should move into breath. It's already 8:09. So we'll do some alternate nostril breathing. I'll lead you through a few rounds. If you have retention in your practice, and I'll say this you're welcome to do it. I'm not going to teach it. And then maybe do a few rounds of bumblebee breath, which I'll lead you through, and then we'll go right into our meditation. I'll set the timer for 20 minutes. You need to drop early or set your own timer. You can write yourself that permission slip. You don't need my permission. So just sitting up nice and tall. Just taking a few breaths in through the nose and out through the nose. Just trying to bring the attention to the body and to the breath. You need to do a body scan to soften any areas. Choosing where you're doing with your eyes, keeping them open. Finding a soft gaze externally or closing the eyes and bringing the gaze inward. Choosing what you want to do with your palms, whether it's pointer and thumb to touch, palms up in the lap or palms face down. Just try to deepen the breath in through the nose, really fill up the low belly. And then exhale, bring the belly button to the spine, let all the air out. Just keep breathing like that, inhaling completely, exhaling completely. And you can stay breathing like this. If you want to move into alternate nostril breathing, you'll bring your right hand over to your face. I fold my two middle fingers into my palm. My right thumb will close my right nostril, and my right ring finger will close my left nostril. So inhale through both, exhale through both. Take your thumb to close your right, inhale through your left, close left, exhale right, inhale right, close right, exhale left. That's one full round. Inhale left, close left, exhale right, inhale right, close right, exhale left, inhale left, close left, exhale right, inhale right, close right, exhale left, inhale left, close left, exhale right, inhale right, close right, exhale left. Take a few more rounds on your own breath, adding on to your practice if you want to add the retentions, the locks. You'll take your time to finish up whichever round you're on, exhaling out through the left nostril. And then if you want to take a few rounds of bumblebee breath, you'll close your ears with your thumbs and your eyes with your second two fingers. You'll take a deep breath in, and you'll exhale out through the nose, and you'll make a humming sound at the back of the throat, which is going to create a sound and vibrations in the body. So if you want to take a peek at me, I'll demonstrate if you're not sure. And you exhale for as long as you can, and you just repeat the cycle 3 to 5 times. And when you're finished, you can go right into your meditation. bringing hands together in front of heart. Namaste.